Hey guys, welcome back. This is History of Power Rangers Season 3, Episode 12 of my show, but this is about Episode 11 of Season 3. But before I start talking about it, since we're on Episode 11, that means the next two videos I'm going to be covering are part of a two-part episode. I just wanted to get that out of the way there very quickly, and that's actually the only little thing that I wanted to get out of the way with this episode before I actually started talking about it. But anyway, which means that when we get to the second part, also I'm just gonna mention that since there are 33 episodes in the main season plus the added 10, once we get to episode 13, we will have about, I think 20 or so. Yeah, because 43, if you add it, because 33 in the main plus 10 extra, that means 43 in the third season. So, so we have about 30 more, I don't know, like 30 more videos or something left, but because there's 33 episodes in the main segment of the third season plus the added 10 episodes in Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. But enough getting off topic. This is History of Power Rangers Season 3, Episode 12 of my show, but this is about Episode 11 of Season 3. Now, Episode 11 in Season 3 is known as Fourth Down and Long. Now, the way this episode starts off is basically, Rocky and Adam are in, Mr. Wilton's chemistry class with another boy named Alan, who in this episode is a member of the football team, and they're working on this project. They're working on this chemistry project, which causes a little bit of an explosion, a minor explosion at the lab, and then basically, what happens is, because of that, Mr. Wilton actually has to evacuate the laboratory temporarily, and then they're wondering why that happened, and then Billy checks over Alan's notes, and then he notices that Alan actually got some of the calculations with the chemicals wrong and stuff. That's what caused a little bit of a mishap. And then basically, because of that, that's why the experiment in the lab didn't work out. And then basically, Mr. Wilton mentions that until he can get his grades up, he's going to mention to the coach that he keeps him off the football team. But when Alan overhears that part, he mentions that he can't because there's the Stone Canyon game coming up. Anyway, and then basically, then it goes into a scene where the Rangers are back in the youth center. Well, first it goes into the scene where, the scene where the Rangers are in the youth center and they're talking with Alan about it, and then, Rocky mentions about his Uncle Joe, which in this case is Joe Haley, which it was a famous football player in the series. I think for the TV show purposes it was put in there, but anyway, he was wondering if he thought maybe his uncle could help Alan out with the problem that he's been having with school and stuff. So they decide to go over to where he is in order to talk to him, and then basically, then then this actually leads into what happens. I just mentioned that now because that's gonna lead into what happens with the monster that's gonna get created in this episode. That's why I mentioned it before this. So basically, what happens is now I'm gonna actually get into the part with the monster. Rita and Zed are wondering what monster that they should send down, and Zed said that he wants Finster to create him a monster. And this is the funny part. This monster that he creates is actually what he technically creates on accident, because what happens is Finster says that he has a magic centipede monster ready for him to send down to Earth. And then basically, at this point, Rito is playing with these footballs and he accidentally knocks the green centipede out of Finster's hands, which then comes into... I can't really remember how, but it comes into... I think it comes into contact with one of the staffs, and then basically what happens is, because of that, the new monster is accidentally created, which Zed promptly names. He's like, and this is the funny thing, the monster that Finster creates accidentally is, as Zed states, it's called Centiback. Now, I'm gonna mention that that's actually a football reference because it's a centipede monster with a football-type uniform on it. So he says it's like, I think but before he gives the monster that name, the monster shows him what he can do, and basically what he can do is he can turn anyone into basically footballs. Oh my god. And then that's when Zed sees that he's like, and he uses Rito as a demonstration of it, and when Rito gets turned into a football, Zed's like, who wants to play some Rito ball? And then basically he and Goldark start fooling around with the center-back monster, playing with Rito that they turned into a football at this point, and then that's when Zed gives him the name, like, he's like, I think I'll call you centre-back. Half centipede, half football player. And then he's telling Finster that, Finster, by sheer accident. Well, the funny thing is the accident actually happened partially because of Rito's fooling around with the football. So that's why the center-back monster got created in the first place, but still, it's an accidental kind of thing. So it's sort of similar to what happened in the previous video I talked about, where a monster is accidentally created, but under good circumstances, again, in this case. But anyway, after the monster is created and Zed gives it the name Centiback, he tells Finster that, Finster, by sheer accident, you have created a monster that you couldn't have created if you were trying to do one on purpose. Now, I don't think he was actually trying to be insulting when he said that, but even though Finster didn't actually intend to create that monster with the green centipede, that's the monster that came out. So in a manner of speaking, it is sort of right. It may have been an accident, but the monster's power to turn people into footballs is actually rather handy. And then basically, what happens is, Bulk and Skull go. Now I'm gonna get back into the segment with the Rangers and with Bulk and Skull, because what basically happens here is Bulk and Skull show up where Haley is, which is Rocky's uncle, and then basically because they're assigned to be his sort of protection detail kind of thing, and so they want him to autograph their thing for them and stuff, and so they do, and that's when the monster shows up. but unfortunately, at the same time when the monster shows up, at the same time when the monster shows up, that's also when Alan and Rocky show up as well, and well, first what happens is after the monster shows up, he uses his football to throw it at those three, at Bulk, Skull, and Joe Haley, to turn them into footballs, because that's basically what his football thing does, is it basically, he throws it, and when it touches someone, as it was stated, as I stated in the previous segment of this video, I talked about when the football touches someone, it turns the person it touches into a football kind of thing. And then basically by this point, Alan and Rocky have already shown up, and then the center-back monster sees them, and then he turns Alan into one of the footballs, and then Rocky morphs to his ranger form to deal with the center-back monster. And then basically while he's fighting the center-back, he contacts Zordon on his communicator to tell him about the situation that's going on, that he's being to tell him that about the situation that he's being attacked by a monster at the football field and he needs help. And then when the monster hears that part of it, he's like, Zordon? Huh? He's the worst coach in the universe! Oh, before I continue, I just want to mention something. After the monster had turned most of the people into footballs by this point, he started making some sort of football-based puns, like what I mean by football-based puns is sort of similar to like because he says about at the end of the quarter, and it's about something for visiting app, and then for the visiting team, and then basically that was when Rocky contacted Zordon on his communicator, and then that's when the monsters mentioned that Zordon is the worst coach in the universe, which is basically another football type reference. And then basically the other Rangers show up to help Rocky deal with the center-back monster, and he gets ready to throw his football at him, and then basically then Rocky mentions that they can't let the football touch them, because if it does, it'll turn them into footballs, just like it did his Uncle Joe and Bulk and Skull and Alan. So basically, they try to avoid the football, but most of them get hit with it, and then they get turned into basically colored footballs based on their Ranger colors. And then, well, all of them aside from Rocky get turned into footballs, and then he gets away, and then basically the center-back monster gets upset that Rocky got away. He's like, hey, he can't leave in the middle of the game. It's unsportsmanlike. Well, oh, the funny thing about that, now I'm going to mention the part about the battle team. The way the battle worked with the Tangas this time around was, since it was a sort of a football type thing, both teams were lined up football-like style, like they were, like, because in order to start playing football, you need to have a player that's in the huddle hike it to the quarterback and stuff, and so it's sort of like that. So basically the battle was like a football game sort of thing, sort of similar to what happened in the first season with the Rhino Blaster monster. I just wanted to get that out of the way there, because this episode is also sort of similar to that one. But anyway, when getting back into what I was saying earlier, when Rocky leaves after he teleports away in the middle of the game, in the middle of the battle, the center-back monster gets upset, and he's like, Hey, he can't leave in the middle of a game. It's unsportsmanlike. Well, I guess we'll just have to go to the locker room and plan their demise for the second half. And plan his demise for the second half. So basically, the center back monster and the Tongas get away. And then basically, Rocky's back in the command center at this point. And he's feeling a little down that his friends got turned into footballs by the center back monster. And they're wondering if they can find a way to reverse it. And basically, he figures out the way to reverse it is by having them catch the football and then basically having the football touch them again, turning them back to normal. Now, I'm mentioning that because that's actually the part that plays in. So he goes back to deal with the center back monster after getting these sort of like trash can type containment devices, and basically he uses them, and then he goes back to deal with the center back monster, and then basically while he's dealing with them, the center back monster throws his ball, and then Rocky catches it, and first what he does is he uses the center back monster's football to basically throw it to Bulk, Skull, Alan, and his uncle to turn them back to normal. And then after they're turned back to normal, he has Zordon teleport them away from the playing field, from the battlefield to keep them safe and stuff. And then basically, then he does the same thing again, catches the football in the center back monsters, he manages to capture the center back monster's football and send it back to the Rangers, turning them back into their human forms. And then Zed and Rita get upset that their monster is being defeated. And then they make the monster grow, and then that's when the Rangers start fighting the center back monster in the Megazord. And this is the funny thing, there's also a little bit of a minor kind of snow kind of thing happening in this episode by this point. So there's a little bit of snow coming while they're playing. And then before I finish the segment here, I'm just going to mention when the center back monster started to grow, he want to play some touch football? And then basically, the Rangers fight the center back monster in the Megazord, and then they manage to defeat it, and then Rita and Zed get upset that they lost again, and then basically what happens is after that, then it goes back into the scene with the Rangers, and they're back in the youth center, and then Alan basically tells them that he has good news, that he doesn't have to quit the football team and stuff, so he can still participate in the game against Stone Canyon. And then they're wondering how they managed to keep him on there without keeping his grades up. And then Rocky's uncle mentions that his problems seem similar to his when he was a kid, so he had him checked out. So apparently what the kid had was a common for most humans is a thing called dyslexia, which is a type of condition that has to do with stress kind of thing, and so on and so forth. And basically, they say that now that they know what to deal with, they can find ways to correct it. And then Rocky's uncle mentions that he doesn't have to quit the team, and then they're all happy about that, and that's basically where this episode stops. So if you guys like this video when I post it, just please give this video the real best you guys can, and I will see you, probably not tomorrow for the next video. Well, maybe tomorrow for the next video, because I think tomorrow's a weekend day. So until tomorrow for the next Power Ranger video, guys, just please give this video the real best you guys can. And I will see you sometime tomorrow for the next video. So until then, like I always tell you with this series, may the power protect you always.